How's everyone doing today? It's Odin here from Tactical Edge Hobbies in the G-Bone store, and today on our Tuesday Tech Talk brought to you by the Custom Shop, I'm going to quickly show you how you can do some cosmetic upgrades to your high capper. So I've grabbed us a standard WeTech 4.3 2011 high capper out of the warehouse. I've grabbed one of the more understated models. There is a lot of other models that come with things like mag flares and stuff like that installed on them. However, we're going to customize a pistol, so we might as well start from a nice clean slate. So I've also grabbed an assortment of parts. So I've got with us here an Armourer Works custom flat face trigger that we'll install. Now this is exactly the same as installing a trigger by any other manufacturer, with one step, the main step being that terribly sorry about the lighting, guys. Here we go. So this trigger comes already installed onto the trigger hoop. So if you've bought just a trigger face, like this part for example, you'll need to take your trigger out, knock the pin out of that little hole, put your new trigger on your trigger hoop and reinsert that little roll pin that's in there. The beauty of the Armourer Works ones is it just fits. They come pre-made and they just drop straight in. So we've got that. We've got an awesome red anodized mag flare, again by AW Custom. We have a Taran Tactical Innovations made by AW Custom mag base, help us tell our mags a little bit apart from everybody else. And then a personal favorite part of mine that I actually run on all my own personal pistols is the WeTech extended slide catches. So that replaces your standard one here and extends back to about here, so it's a little bit easier to reach with your thumb when you've got your hand wrapped around the pistol. So two of these accessories, sorry, I should actually say before we go any further, I should explain the relationship from AW Customs to WeTech. So the way I explain it to people in store is, if you picture WeTech as Toyota, then AW Customs will be their Lexus. So same manufacturer, just different end of the product scale. So WeTech will make the more understated or less flashier type pistols. Armourer Works make the flashier ones. They make the licensed ones, for example. So same company, parts fit directly on. That's the beauty of Armourer Works parts with WeTech, is there's no fitting, filing, modifying, things like that need to happen, as happens on almost every other type of pistol component, but not when it comes to Armourer Works. So with these two parts here, they're both grip related. So the trigger actually lives inside the grip itself through there, and the mag flare obviously goes on around there. So we're going to need to remove our grip, which in the instances of any of the WeTechs is the two topmost screws on your grip, and there is also one Phillips head screw that comes in through the bottom of the frame and down into here. So we'll take the slide off first. Now as always, magazine out, slide back until we line up our notch with our slide lock there, and then I prefer to do it by putting my finger through the ejection port and actually pushing out. You can push on, that's why you can push on that part there to push it out as well. However, as you saw, they come out pretty easy when you put your finger through the ejection port. So I'm going to put the slide to the side for today because we won't be working with that at all. Now this slide release, because we're putting the extended one in, I don't need this one anymore. I'm going to put this back in the box that the pistol came out of in case we ever decide we need that in the future. And then we may as well start off by removing, so I can get the light. Yeah, you can just see it there, that little Phillips head. So that needs to come out because that's coming straight through the frame and into the grip. All right, so let's remove that. I'll set that over the side here so we don't lose it. Now, at this point, I would usually recommend removing this pin. So this back strap here has the hammer spring in it that pushes up on a strut that travels up to the base of the hammer up in here. So there is a little bit of pressure there, certainly nothing to be worried about, but it is a little bit easier if you remove this first. Now, quick giveaway on WeTechs, pro tip if you like, the divot in one side of the pin, and if I can get focus, so see that one's got a slight divot in it, whereas on this side it's flat. The divot exists because it makes it easier to put it in on machines. So that's the side it's been pushed into from the factory. So if we use our pin punch, so a pin punch steel shaft, hardened steel tip. You want to make sure it's got a nice squared off end on it here, so it's got perfectly flat end there. Alright, and you want to use a hammer. Now you can use any old hammer. I've got a couple of hammers here. Now when I'm using pin punches, I tend to use a steel hammer. It gives it a bit more weight for the knock. However, when I'm doing the reverse and I'm putting things like putting these pins back in, I would strongly recommend you go get yourself one of these little soft face hammers. They're extremely cheap, and they're made out of like a Delrin material, so you can actually wail on things fairly well without having to worry about marking them when you're using a soft face hammer. Certainly not the case with a metal hammer. So we'll knock this pin out. Now I'm going to start it here on the bench, but I'm going to have to move it to the edge off camera, sorry, just to drive it through, or else I'm going to hit the bench. I've got a nice solid tabletop with a EVA foam mat stuck to it. Anyone who's been to our G-Bung store will know what I'm talking about. It is my exact tech bench. So a couple of knocks on that. See, just pushed it through. So depending on the pistol, sometimes these can be pushed out, sometimes they may need to be driven out. This one's certainly tight, so just moving it over to the edge of the bench where I've got that pin hanging off and holding the rest of the pistol down with the palm of my hand. You can sort of just see it there. There we go. So I've driven it through, and this is what's holding it on, that knurled section there. So once you get past that knurled section, you'll usually find that if you can't pull it out easily, it'll then pop out like that. Okay, and as I've pulled the pin punch out there, that's actually shot under spring pressure slightly forward. That's as far forward as it wants to go. That's all the compression that's on it. So it just wants to come forward a little bit. We take that out and set that to the side. Now we grab our Allen key, remove our two side grip screws. Careful not to lose them. Set them over to the side with our Allen key. Now just wiggle and it will come off. So that's the lower frame of our high capper. For those of you who have never seen a separate lower frame, up in here is where our sear connects to our trigger and all the magic happens. This was that hammer strut that I was talking about before. As you can see, it's moving the hammer slightly when I wiggle it. So that hammer strut comes down into our back strap through that hole and pushes on there. So that's the only spring preload that you're going to be dealing with here. Not much, and certainly nothing to be too concerned about. Now, as I've taken the grip off, our Trident spring's fallen out. So our Trident spring lives in the back here, and I'll show you how we align that back when we go to put it all back together. From this point, we just need to remove our magazine release. So button on this side, slight flathead screw section in this side. All we need to do, grab a small flathead screwdriver, put it in, push, and a quarter turn counterclockwise. So once you've done that, as you saw, it'll just come free and it comes out. So it's the little locking lug back here which holds it into place. If I can get some focus, there we go. So you see that little locking nub there? So that's what we're effectively retracting when we use our screwdriver. Okay, set that over to the side, and now we're ready to replace our trigger. So standard WeTech trigger straight out the back. We'll grab our Armourer Works trigger here for high capper only. The actual front face of these triggers can be used on the 1911s, however the trigger hoop is much wider in a 2011 to allow for the double width magazine. In a 1911 this hoop is considerably smaller. So once we've got this, so you'll notice that there is flat and then at an angle here. So what we're looking for in that scenario is when this goes back in, we want that angle to relatively closely match the back strap, right? So that would be upside down, and it doesn't even really like going in there. It's going to take some effort to get that to go in. Right way up, and away she goes. Perfect. Now that that's in, we can immediately put our magazine catch back in. To replace it, we just do the reverse. Drop it in, screwdriver down, twist, and you feel it pop back out like that. And there we go. So that's in. That's in, and our trigger's in. Now once you've got that in, always, I'm going to do this on a bit of an angle so it might not slide as well, but hold it face down and just tap it, right? So you're just tapping to make sure that that trigger's moving nice and freely with nothing binding it up. You do not want anything grabbing on that trigger. Now that we've done that, we can put that straight back onto our lower frame. So they can be a little bit tricky. There is more to this that you can pull apart. I'm showing you a quick and easy way to do this. The caveat to it being quick and easy is there is a few steps you have to follow. So from this point here, if your hammer is locked up like this one is, there's no trigger to move. So as you can see there, that little movement just gave away my little tip, I should say. So by tilting it on its back and just giving it a bit of a knock, everything settles in the down position towards our workbench, and you can see now our hammer's nice and free and moving forward, and our back strap wants to come all the way out like that. Sorry, I should say our beaver tail safety wants to swing all the way out, and we have our hammer strut here. So that's the little trick that I do to do this nice and quickly, is you tip it upside down, tap it a bit, and everything will settle with gravity down. You'll then have the ability to move the hammer and the beaver tail safety. Now once you've done that, you've got your disconnector here. So we want to push that back, because essentially what we're looking for is this. You have something to point with. So this shape here is actually the exact shape, and I can show you because I have the other trigger here. It's actually the exact shape of the back of the trigger. So that gives you a little bit of an idea as to how this is supposed to go in. So when the trigger is in and sitting forward, it will sit there. These will rest up against it like, these will rest up against it like so. And when you pull the trigger, it sits all the way back into this recess. So that's a bit of a tip as to what you're trying to do when you put this grip on, right? So we've got everything pushed back, our hammer's down, or up, down in this instance. Our beaver tail safety is right back. Grab our grip and just lower it down onto the frame a little bit further forward than it would want to normally sit, and then just angle it in and slide it to the back. Now it should meet up perfectly like that, all right, even with no pressure on that. So that's just sitting there, and it wants to sit exactly where I'm asking it to. So if it doesn't want to sit there, you've got something binding up. So just take your time, manipulate these so you've got lots of clearance. Make sure that your trigger's forward, you see your disconnector is back like I just explained before, and just take your time, and that will go back on exactly the same way it came out. So from here, fairly straightforward. Now one of the tricks with the WeTech to observe as well, these do have a washer underneath the screws. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. So this screw brought the washer out with it, this screw did not. So knowing that, now I want to identify which one does not have the washer in it, and in this case it's this one. A bit of something in that hole there, but so we'll drop that one in, get it started. You want to be careful not to cross thread this. Now another thing that's been happening a bit lately is there is some aftermarket screws available on the Australian market in all sorts of pretty wonderful fancy colors. They're not correctly threaded for WeTech, and we've actually found that quite often the heads will snap off them, so I would avoid those at all costs if I can. Factory screws always seem to just work that much better. However, if you wanted to go and get something extremely flashy, there is plenty of websites overseas that will be able to help you with that. So in doing that, and sorry, I have left out our one screw up in the front here, so I'll drop that back in now. Screw that in. Okay, so that's our grip fully reattached. All right, now our hammer, as you can see, is bound up again, which means we can't bring the back strap out. Oh, sorry, I keep getting these two confused in my head. The beaver tail safety. Again, flip it upside down, tap it, and funnily enough, now our hammer comes forward and our beaver tail will swing forward. So now that we've got to that point, this is where the fun part is. So I'm going to attempt to show you how to install a Trident spring on a camera when I can't see my own hands properly. So this should be entertaining for all the family. Okay, Trident spring. So it has 3 separate sections on it. This first section, the raised section, is designed to press against our beaver tail, and it pushes that back out. The longest center section is actually our sear spring, and then our third curved one is for our disconnector. Now what that means when you're putting that in here, I'm going to let the hammer strut, so that hammer strut, you do need to lift that out of the road to put the Trident spring in, but whilst I'm pointing things out in here, I'm just going to let it drop for now. So this is the disconnector where the tip of the screwdriver is pointing now. That's where we want to make sure that this curved prong on our Trident spring, it needs to sit on the back of that. A part that's a bit more harder to see, and we can only really see it here because it's grey, but right next to our disconnector we have another black section, so you can see it here. I'm wiggling it with the tip of the screwdriver. Now we want to make sure that the center prong is resting on top of that, and then this one, as I said, all its job in life is to push this out, so we don't need to worry about alignment on that one. So I've now got the hammer strut over to the side here, holding that with my thumb. I grab my Trident spring, and I generally advise people to start off by essentially coming in that direction. Obviously this is highly exaggerated because you can't do that, the grip's there, but start working with the long prong first. All right, so that goes on to the section in here that is actually black, but you can only really identify it in this because it's missing some of its black paint into there. So we want to get that middle leaf sitting on top of that. Generally you'll find that if you come in from the realistic angle is probably a bit straighter like that, and I always go in rolled like that. So we slide that in. Now if you can see, yep, there we go. We slide that in, bring it down and roll it into position, and it's not a fun job. It is one of those jobs that you love to hate. Now that's rolled into perfect position. Now if you get to this point and you just can't do it, you can't see the beaver tails getting in your road, or sorry, beaver tails getting in your road or something like that, you can remove the safety switches on these relatively simply by extending them all the way up. I can't do it right now, you need to do it at the very early stages. I would recommend, if you need to do that, come in and see us. It'll take us 5 seconds to show you how to do that on your own pistol. That's now, I've rolled that into position like so, and you'll see the curved section is sitting on what was the silver disconnector we could see. The long one, very difficult to see, but it's sitting on top of that black section. It's also cleverly being hidden by the hammer strut, and you can see here the part that's designed to push that back. So at the moment now, I would grab my back strap and I would slide that up into here. So this slides in. Now it does have these locating lugs on the side of it, both sides. However, they don't go all the way up. So start by sliding it in, and when you get about just over halfway, you'll realize that you've got to actually line those grooves up with the little channels in the plastic, right? So that now goes into there. Yeah, so that is now holding our Trident spring in. It can't go anywhere, nothing's going to fall out. The only thing that is still loose in here is our hammer strut, this one here. So we need that to drop right into the center of the hole where I showed you that the hammer spring goes before. And in order to do that, I suggest rotating the pistol like that, letting gravity bring that back. And when you do that, I'll show you on a bit of an angle so you can see how I do it. So roll it back, bring the beaver tail up. The angle's not letting me do it, so if you'll excuse me 1 second. Yeah. So you can bring the beaver tail up. Now this is all whilst you're still holding the pistol in this position, and you'll find that once you've got the beaver tail up now, that should slide straight in. Now I'm going to quickly just use our old pin just to hold the back strap in while I unpack it, our other one. Okay, so here's our red one, our red Armor Works one. Very pretty. They also find they come with a longer silver pin in the box. So This pin is what holds mag flares on. Now obviously when they come standard with this mag standard grip on them, they only need a short pin to go that width. However, when you put the mag flare on, you need an extended pin to be able to come out and actually lock that in place. That's what the silver one is for. So I'll grab that out of its packet. Put pressure on our back strap. Grab our mag flare. Now, front in first, so like so. Certainly wouldn't recommend doing this where you can't see your hands for the first time. Alright, so that, as you'll see there, now that's dropped back a little bit. Alright, and then depending on the actual grip, sometimes you can just push and these will pop on, like that. Other times you might need to give it a little bit of a tap with a soft face the first time it goes on. But yeah, WeTech and Armourer Works, they just fit together, so they are going to fit. Then we just grab our pin and our soft face. And it's caught me out. So our back strap is loose. There's a trick for new players. So when you put the back strap in, the back strap actually holds the beaver tail safety on by that little tab. So I'll grab my pin punch, push the pin back out, remove that pin, push the back strap down a bit. There we go. And that's all it takes to rectify that. Tap. Use our pin punch. We just want to tap that. We want to tap it until it sits just perfectly below the surface and doesn't stick too far out the other side, exactly like I just did. It happens. So. Tap it back the other way. There we go. Now we're good. Sweet. Right, so now we've got our mag flare and our trigger installed. We've got our grip back onto our lower. We should be able to cock the hammer and release it. Yep, no worries. Safety should work. Yep. Functions exactly like it did before we took it apart. Alright, now slide back on. Obviously now's also a good time to service your pistol if you've been playing with it for a while. So as I explained in the previous pistol video, you would put a little bit of grease on the rails looking for any silver, and that just goes to show you how quickly wear can happen. This was a brand new pistol before I started this video, but just from playing with it while I was setting up and demoing it in this video, it's shown a little bit. So that's a perfect indicator of where you would put the grease. So a bit of grease on those rails there, and of course a bit of grease inside the rails in the slide as well. However, for the sake of this video, we're just going to put it back together. So back in we go. Perfect. Now we grab our WeTech extended slide release. So where's our original one gone? I've misplaced it, but here it is. So this gives you a better idea of what the extension does. So they're essentially the same component, just this one has an extension added onto it like that. So goes in exactly the same way. We want our slide to go back until we get our half moon shape lined up where the tip of our lock would be. Drop it in place, a little bit of pressure, there we go, done. So that's what they do. So now when you swap a mag over, you can, whilst your hand's still got full grip on the pistol, you can reach up and drop your slide. Very good. Now, magazine. Let's do a mag base. Okay, so here we've got our mag. We'll put our pistol to the side for the moment. Stock standard mag, and we've got our mag base. So if we open this up, we have our actual mag base. Nice frosted silver look on that one, and it comes with this little packet here. So in the packet you've got an Allen key, a little post and a little grub screw just there. So if we take those out, grab our Allen key and our little grub screw, put that onto the end of our Allen key like so, and grab our mag base, and then on the side here there's a threaded hole, so we want to start screwing that into there, just nice and gently. We don't want to cross thread it, and they're not hard to get in. Once it starts it'll just go, so you just nice and gently. And then we have our post. Now we'll put our post aside just for a second until we're ready to actually fit it. Grab our standard WeTech mag, depress the little plunger that actually keeps it in place, and again into the main hole now. There we go. So that's that little plunger that I was just depressing to get the base of the mag off. So you're just pushing your Allen key through and holding that down so the mag base slides off. That's our fill valve if we ever need to get to it for any maintenance purposes. But for this, all we need to do now is grab our magazine, gel side facing right, our mag plate with our additional hole facing towards the gel side, slide it on, depress that, and it's on. Now we grab our little post, and you can do it whichever way you see fit. I prefer to come up from the bottom, I find it a little bit easier. Slide it through there, get it into the right position, put our Allen key back in, and just nip that up. Alright, so now that post is locked in and that's locked on. You're not going to lose your mag base, and you can still get to your fill valve through that little hole. So it does make your mags look a little bit more distinguishable out on the field. And in this instance, there we go. Oh, there. Makes our pistol look just a little bit nicer. So I literally just have had the realization that I don't like this mag flare with this mag base. I'm going to have to do something about that. I'll be right back. Okay, because I've decided that I don't particularly like the red, I'm going to show you, one, how quickly you can do these modifications once you become familiar with them, and two, why it's great to have the ability to be able to swap parts in and out. So I've grabbed another mag flare here, still made by Armourer Works. However, this is the Trident Tactical version, which is slimmed down on the sides and of course black. So I'll show you how we do that in a hurry. Time! What was that? About 40 seconds? There you go. So once you've done it a few times, it sort of becomes second nature. Quite easy to get on top of. So, and I do quite like that. We put our mag back in. That's kind of cool actually. So that is how we customize our WeTech pistols to suit you. So there we have it. That's how you make your WeTech high capper or Armourer Works or any other high capper for that matter more you. So I actually quite like this one now. It's definitely more me. It's got the triggers I prefer. I like the black mag flare along with the silver base, and of course my favourite, our slide release. It just makes life so much more easy. But with that said, I'm Odin. This is Tactical Edge Hobbies at G-Bung. If there's something I haven't addressed here, or there's a modification you want to do that's a little bit more advanced than what I've covered in this video, give us a call, come in and see us, jump on Facebook, or we do have a Discord channel that I will get Gilly to put a link to down below. Get in touch, ask us a few questions, come in and see us, come and have a chat, come see what different WeTech pistols we have. We now have over 50 different pistols from WeTech in stock, so come and check it out. Everybody, have a great week. See you next week. Go out there, play some gel ball, have some fun.